Redbird Report, your destination for the latest on the St. Louis Cardinals. Here are your hosts, BK and T-Bone.
Alongside Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Welcome into the Redbird Report, where the Cardinals are still stuck in mediocrity. Every time they take a step forward, it seems like there's another step back, and that has been the case once again. Cardinals win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They take 2 out of 3 over the weekend against the Chicago Cubs, and now they've got a split series. We are recording this, full disclosure, on Wednesday afternoon as the Cardinals are in a close game late in this one against the Colorado Rockies. So by the time you're hearing this, you probably know the results of that game. We unfortunately do not. T-Bone, a big part of this is the pitching, right? If you have great pitching, it makes you, relatively speaking, slump-proof. It allows for your offense to, even when they go through dry spells, they have the ability to win games 2-1, 3-1. It's not an easy way to win, but it is a way that can work. We've seen this in the past from the Cardinals. You go back to 2015. Wasn't the greatest offense in the world, but the team was so good on the pitching side of things that they were able to overcome any deficiencies they may have had as an offense. Run suppression is a tried and true way to win in Major League Baseball. Matthew Liberatore was a big part of that early on this season. In his first 10 starts, he went nearly 60 innings for the Cardinals. He had 51 strikeouts and 8 walks. That is an excellent strikeout-to-walk ratio. He had more swing and miss at the time. His velocity was up. It was impressive to watch. Overall, the ERA was 2.7, and all of the underlying numbers suggested, hey, man, this is real. This guy has been every bit as good as his ERA suggests. And then the last 12 starts has happened. And it's been, I wouldn't even say a mixed bag. I would say it's definitely been a turn for the worst for Libby. He had a decent stretch in there after he got caught with velo dips. He figured it out for a little bit against the Cubs and the White Sox, and then it went back to velo dips starting in the 4th or 5th inning. In his last 12 starts, he's gone 57 innings, only 37 strikeouts, 20 walks. The ERA has spiked to 5.5. The fielding independence, so like the underlying stuff suggests, yeah, this is real. Not striking out as many batters, walking more, contact up, fastball velo down. Secondary's not as good. He's kind of ditched the cutter, gone back to the curveball. There's been some usage changes here. So he's trying some things. It's just not working. He has not been the same effective starter as he was early on in the season. T-Bone, what does it all mean? I want to start with Matthew Liberatore today because I think he's been, at least early on in the season, one of the biggest success stories of this runway season. You found out you have a major league starter in Libby, and the question is, what can the ceiling be here with him? What do you make of his seemingly like half of the season really good, half of the season not so good splits for the 2025 year?
Well, it still makes me kind of dream on what he can become as a starter, and the reason that I say that is because, first off, I mean, you can't just take away what happened in the first half. When things were going well for Matthew Liberatore, the body felt right. You could see he had really good stuff to where I think at one point on the Redbird Report here, I said something like, this guy could be it too. I'm not going to just throw that away. My hope is that, you know, what's happening is it is starting to catch up with him, the amount of innings that he is throwing this year, because he's 2 years removed from which he threw 125 innings, 126 innings back in 2023 when he was a starter / swingman for the Cardinals and then a starter in Memphis as well. Last year, he only got to 86 innings here with the Cardinals. It's a big jump to go from 86 innings to trying to prepare the body to get up to that 125 to 150 range. My hope, and I know this sounds weird, my hope is that this is just kind of his body's getting tired on him. The arm is lagging behind because he says he's not feeling anything. He says he's not feeling anything in terms of like feeling mechanics are getting off. To me, it just screams, okay, the body's being tired. And sometimes when you're tired, you don't really feel it as much as you would expect. That's my hope. And the biggest reason that I'm still holding hope on, he can maybe not become a 2, maybe that's too lofty, but maybe he can settle in as like a really good number 3, a guy that, if he pitches well, can be a guy that can shove 7 innings for you on any time he takes the ball, is because of the first half. The first half still has me dreaming on him potentially having a pretty high ceiling for the Cardinals in this rotation.
What would you have considered Eduardo Rodriguez?
I think he got mischaracterized as a bit of a 2, but I would say he probably fell more in line as a 3. And I think that's what the Diamondbacks signed him for. Yeah.
The reason that I bring that up is because when you look at some of the, like Baseball Savant, they have the profile based on velo and movement, who you most closely resemble. They have Eduardo Rodriguez as one of the top comparisons for what we've seen this year with Matthew Liberatore. And you look back at his numbers, I mean, 3.8 ERA, 4.7, 4.2, 3.8, 3.8, 4.7, 4.0. Those are very, I agree with you, mid-rotation starter types of numbers. And then he did have some success once they got into the postseason, and so I think that's some of what we remember him for. But he was a decent starter for the Boston Red Sox, and then eventually got, the bag by the Arizona Diamondbacks for what he did in the 2023 season. I think that is in line with where my expectations currently are with Libby. Do I think he's ultimately going to be that number 2 starter, the potential that we saw early on this season? Probably not. We probably got a little out over our skis when we were talking about it that way, but he showed that potential at least. And that's all I need. I need the potential of you on any given day to be able to go out there and give me 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 3 hits, 1 earned run. If you have the potential to do that, I can dream on what you are as that number 3, number 4 starter in my rotation. The Cardinals have lacked many of those guys in recent seasons because so many of them pitch to contact, and they have very little swing and miss. So as long as Libby's able to correct this a bit next year, I don't need him to be some strikeout artist. Can you get to, league average on the strikeout rate? That'd be a plus for this team given where they've been with their rotation. I think that's where I'm viewing him right now. I'm not overly concerned about the dip in the velo. If it's something that continues, next year we get midway through the season, it starts wearing down again, you get into the 4th, 5th innings, and the velo dips, his effectiveness wears down, and he just becomes a 5-and-dive starter, that's when I would be concerned, and that's when we can talk about, all right, is he more valuable in this role as a 4 to 5 inning starter where it is more of a back end of the rotation guy, or does he bring more value to the table as a multi-inning, like the Kyle Leahy role, where you can come in, get the lefty lanes, potentially give them multiple innings depending on the situation? That's when that becomes a conversation again, but for right now, it's been a successful year. Disappointing finish to the season, certainly, but not overly surprising either. And I would say overall it's been a success.
Well, at least, and this is where I agree with successful, at least you were to see something that can be a North
100%.
Star, right? This isn't if you were, and I'm not trying to pick on this pitcher, but if this was Andre Palante and you look at what he's done for you this year, it's hard to kind of pinpoint on what would be your North Star for Andre Palante. Has major walk issues. He has a high ERA so far this season. He's not getting deep into games, doesn't strike batters out. Like it would be hard to pinpoint the North Star for Andre Palante. With Liberatore, at least you have that. And at least you know that, hey, this guy, even if it doesn't work as a starter, we've seen it in the bullpen. He was a really good reliever for them in 2024. You can try that. You can try and push him back into that role if it doesn't work out. But, yeah, I'm not overly concerned. If he became Eduardo Rodriguez, oh, my gosh, that would be such a huge win for the Cardinals. Because, you think about it, who's the last 3 that they developed? That you look at it and go, okay, that guy has at least some upside.
I mean, he was like that or better. Jack would have been the last one that I can point to, but he's the answer for all of these questions. I feel like it's Jack Flaherty that I can point to for 2018, 2019, that general range, and then before that you go to a season of Dakota Hudson, and then before that it's probably Carlos. So the fact that I have to go back to pitchers that were developed in the organization in, 2013, that's not an ideal setting for where they're at right now, as we know with their pitching development pipeline. Matthew Liberatore has been a success, all things considered, despite the recent frustrations with his outings. The overall pitching department, though, I would say most of those success stories have been on the bullpen side of things. I mentioned Leahy. Hot damn, dude. This dude just consistently churns out quality outings coming out of the pen. There's going to be more and more conversations about what he can be for them next year as a potential starter. I think those are all justified based upon his performance. Riley O'Brien, the strikeout stuff has been there. We saw some really positive signs from Andre Granillo recently. I think Ryan Fernandez looks pretty darn good. He's had a couple of decent, below average outings, but man, overall the stuff is absolutely playing at this level. And then Svanson's maybe the one that impresses me more than anybody. Yeah. Guy has looked amazing. This stuff clearly plays. I think he has future closer written all over him. The velo is there. Swing and miss is outrageous right now. The Cardinals, for as disappointing of a year as this has been in many ways, man, they have really developed a bullpen that I know they can teeter on the edge. They're very volatile year to year. I feel pretty good about where they're at with their bullpen arms heading into 2026, and that's before they sign anybody this offseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love some of the additions that we've seen to this bullpen that they've been able to bring up and call up and give runway to, like Swanson. I mean, you mentioned him. I agree. He totally screams future closer for the St. Louis Cardinals. O'Brien looks good this year, and you see why they made the bet on him last year, I think it was, when they claimed him on waivers.
I think it was 2 years ago now. I think last year he had a bunch of injury issues.
But you can see why they really liked him because of the stuff that he brings out of the bullpen. It finally feels like a bullpen that, knowing Oli Marmol, and he has preached this both privately and publicly about, boy, we could use some more swing and miss in both our pitching in general. This is the kind of bullpen that he's going to love because you've got guys that aren't real splitty. At least they haven't been yet. We'll see if something develops with like a Swanson, for example. Not splitty. They've got pretty good swing and miss, and they are fire-breathing dragons when they come into the game. And even the guy that they brought claimed on waivers, Alcaro, who we saw for the first time yesterday it was, he looks pretty good. He looks like a guy that's going to be fun to kind of twiddle the knobs and see what you're able to come up with here going into next season. But yeah, I was not expecting this. I liked some of the arms. Like I liked Swanson in the small samples that we saw him. Granillo was interesting in the small samples that we saw him. Fernandez we hadn't seen in a while, but now that he's back, he looks fixed. I thought this is where it was going to fall off the rails for the Cardinals. And the reason that you can, if you are still a Cardinals fan that wants to dream on playoffs, I'm not there anymore after you get shut out by the Rockies, but if you are there, it's because the bullpen hasn't rolled over and played dead like I thought it was going to. These kids have been really impressive.
Since the deadline, they're 15th in Major League Baseball from their bullpen and strikeout rate. That's not a great number. It's not, top 5, top 6, whatever. San Diego, for example, is best in the league. Not a surprise. They have arms coming out from every possible angle in that bullpen. But 15th, after selling off, your two best arms out of your bullpen with Ryan Helsley and Phil Baton, to still be in the top half of the league after selling those two guys and Steven Matz, who got most of the lefty lanes in high leverage situations, it's pretty darn impressive, man. And I think Ollie's done a good job of navigating what they have. I like the fact that he's been aggressive in getting multiple innings out of some of these guys. Kyle Leahy brings that to the table. Graceffo brought that to the table. Granillo has shown that. Riley O'Brien has shown that ability. Swanson has shown that for them in the past as well. I like that creativity that he's shown with the way that he's utilizing his bullpen arms. It's been a hell of a lot of fun to watch, which is not what I expected to say necessarily when they sold off 2 or 3 of their highest leverage arms at this year's deadline. All right, so that brings us to the next conversation that I wanted to have, T-Bone. The Cardinals have a young player decision to make in the coming days. We are recording this on August 13th. My understanding is August 15th is the break-even day for rookie players in 2026 to retain that eligibility. If they are called up August 16th or beyond, as long as they don't hit a certain threshold with plate appearances, which they're unlikely to do, they would retain their eligibility for rookie status in 2026. Why is that important, BK? Why do I care about that date? Because if a rookie wins Rookie of the Year, the teams are rewarded with a draft pick now. They are incentivized for getting these players up to the big league level, but disincentivized from doing so too early the year prior. So it's a weird thing. It both helps and hurts some of these players depending on the time of the year that they are most likely to be called up. That applies for Quinn Mathews and J.J. Wetherholt for the St. Louis Cardinals. And there's a possibility that one or either of them could be called up at some point between now and the end of the regular season. John Mozeliak was on with the Morning After earlier this week, and he was asked about this, whether or not it would make sense for the Cardinals to bring up Quinn Mathews and or J.J. Wetherholt. Here's his response, quote, "I think that'll be a discussion that we have to all participate in, but it is not their protection year. It's not necessarily in the best interest of the organization to do that, even though it might be fun and exciting. But, we're not forced to put them on the roster in the offseason, and that's definitely something that should be part of the conversation," end quote. Again, that comes from the Morning After. They talked with John Mozeliak earlier this week. T-Bone, I find that to be really interesting and at times somewhat maddening. I think there is absolutely a justifiable reason as to why you would not call up one or either of these two players. Using the 40-man as the explanation as to why you would not do it, to me, it is so much the problem that has plagued this team for years. The 40-man is not this hard to navigate. It doesn't have to be, at least. They have plenty of spots on the 40-man if they want to utilize them. Let me ask you this as well, T-Bone. Do you believe the Cardinals are going to be aggressive in free agency this offseason?
No.
Then why is this such a problem?
Well, because we have so many great prospects that we have to protect this year.
And they do have some prospects that they have to protect this offseason. Jimmy Crooks is one of them. They have other arms, especially the hurt ones, that have to be placed on the 40-man in order to protect them. Cooper Jerpy being one, TK Roby being another. He'll be on the 40-man this offseason, and they can't use this 60-day IL to potentially keep him off of the roster in terms of the number game, right? They can do that in the regular season. The 60-day IL does not exist in the offseason. Robersa is another one of those guys that will not be protected by the 60-day IL in the offseason. So they've got to carry all these guys, knowing none of them can contribute in 2026. I don't care. That should not be a problem for them. You can go down the roster right now. Joel Pozo, no clue if he's going to be back next year. I'd probably bet against it, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
Jose Fermin, do I think he's going to be on the roster next year? Probably not. Garrett Hampson, same thing. Matt Koperniak, he has not been called up at any point this year. I would not be surprised if he's not on the roster next year. Michael Ciani, he's pretty clearly not in this team's long-term plans. Could he be DFA'd? Sure, wouldn't surprise me. You go over to the pitching side of things. I don't know if Jorge Alcala is going to be here next year or not. I like the bet on him. We'll see what it looks like over the next 6 weeks. But if you lose him, it's not the end of the world. The Red Sox and the Twins both lost him this season. And it just continues from there. You have plenty of options on your roster. Michaelis is gone. Roderick Munoz. If you lose him, so be it. You go back through Chris Roycroft. I like Chris Roycroft as an option. I'm not going to miss out on keeping somebody else because of him. This lefty that they just picked up off of waivers, another one that they could potentially DFA. They have spots on this roster. They don't have to treat every single one of these spots like gold. So, does it make sense to call up J.J. Wetherholt? I think there's an argument as to no. To say no, that it doesn't. I think there's an argument to be made that no, it doesn't make sense to call up Quinn Mathews. The arguments that they are making, though, publicly, I don't think hold water. T-Bone, what did you make of John Mozeliak's comments earlier this week?
Yeah, I agree on your stance on the comments that they're making. I think it's just a whole bunch of garbage that is being said because you look at their 40-man, I don't remember if we talked about this on the Redbird Report. We talked about this on BK and Ferrario. What was the lesson from Luke and Baker? You shouldn't overvalue the 40-man roster spot, right? You had Luke and Baker sit on that 40-man roster for, 2 seasons? And then you barely used him, had a role for him, and then quickly abandoned it for a defensive-minded shortstop/center fielder in Jose Barrero. And you ended up moving on from Luke and Baker and got nothing really out of that 40-man spot for 2 full years, essentially. So, yeah, the 40-man roster, they make a bigger statement of it. It's one of the biggest things that I'm hoping Chaim Bloom is going to be more willing to churn through is the 40-man, because you're right, there's a ton of spots that you can look at there and just churn through. When it comes to Weatherholt and Quinn Mathews, I personally look at I'm going to start with Weatherhold. I think in the perfect scenario for J.J. Weatherholt, he would be up here in September. And the reason I say that is I go back to what Mason Wynn did with the Cardinals in 2023. In the final 40 games, they decided to call him up. It was August 18th was his debut. And they played him in 37 of the final 40 games to give him experience at the big leagues. Who cares if you fail at that point? They were out of it. It was more about just gaining development. Here's what it looks like. Here's what Major League Pitching looks like. Learn from this. Go into the offseason, make the proper adjustments, and be ready to hopefully be our starting shortstop going into 2024. And I would say that was a massive success. Mason Wynn's been a league average hitter for them offensively the last 2 years. The problem, though, is I mentioned there 37 of the final 40 games is what Mason Wynn played in for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals can guarantee that for J.J. Weatherholt in the final, say, 40 games. Because look at the problem that they're having right now of trying to figure out, okay, how do we get playing time for Brendan Donovan, Thomas Sajaci, Mason Wynn, and Nolan Gorman. And if I add in Nolan Arenado, who seems like he wants to come back this season, that's everything that's being reported. He's doing rehab down in Florida. I expect that he's going to be back with the St. Louis Cardinals this year. That is 5 guys for 3 spots. How am I supposed to get Weatherholt everyday playing opportunities to really learn what it's like to be at the big league level? So for me, you have to just keep him down there in AAA. Yes, it would be fun. Yes, I think he would benefit from it. They have too much of a logjam of their own doing to bring him up here and make it beneficial. Quinn Mathews is the one that I'm a little bit more open-minded to. because of what we've talked about with Matthew Liberatore, they seem like they're open to doing some sort of piggyback opportunity with him, whether that is Libby starts and then Leahy backs him up, or if you decide to bring up Quinn Mathews, you can go with the idea of him piggybacking with Libby, or you can just have him take Libby's spot for the final, whatever it is, 6 weeks of the regular season, get some starts, get some feedback, figure out where you're at. I personally would not bring him up just yet because it's really only been 2 starts where he seems to have figured it out. His last 2 starts, 13 2/3 innings, only 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 18 strikeouts. He had a massive walk issue prior to those starts where it was 4, 5, 2, 4, 3, 6.
30 walks in 30 innings.
Yeah, he needs still a little bit more time of seasoning. I want to see a bigger sample size of Quinn Mathews having success at AAA before they decide to bring him up. So my answer right now, what do I think they're going to do with both of them? I think they're going to keep both of them down at AAA.
I think that's the case as well. I think the time when this really becomes a conversation for the Cardinals is September 1st. Do you call up one or both of those guys as your 2 extra roster spots? Do you go with Nolan Arenado as one of those extra roster spots when the rosters expand? I think there are some open-ended questions there, but that's when it becomes a conversation. That means Mathews gets 4 more starts. Today, when we're recording this again on Wednesday, he has a start to make. That is the first of 4 more before September 1st, most likely. What do those look like? If they look more like the last 2 have, and you have 6 consecutive starts at the AAA level where he is performing well, the velo is back to where it was earlier in the season, the swing and miss stuff is there, the changeup is playing as it has been for most of the year as a legit elite pitch at the AAA level, and that is exactly what it's been. The whiff rate on that thing is insane. That is his out pitch. If he continues to do that, I am very open to the idea of him being inserted into this rotation. I'm totally cool with that because you don't have many other options. Libby, Leahy, like those are fine options right now, but it's not something that is going to prevent me from seeing what Quinn Mathews can do. The other thing you could do, go to a 6-man. When you've got the expanded rosters, you can do that because you still have the same number of arms that are available for you in the bullpen. So either way, September, I think Quinn Mathews makes a ton of sense so long as he continues to pitch the way that he has. And let's be real, he's very likely to be a part of the Cardinals roster at some point in 2026. Maybe that is not opening day, but at some point he is likely to contribute. So no, you don't have to make a decision on him at the end of this season. However, there is value in finding out how big league hitters react when they see his stuff at this level. Maybe it goes really poorly for Quinn Mathews, and it gives you the information in the offseason of we can't count on that guy on opening day of next year. That is valuable information to have. I think that's more valuable than that 40-man roster spot, personally. Maybe you find out, hey, when he is around our big league staff and he's able to have all of this information available to him, he craves it, he loves it, he game plans like a maniac, and because there's more information, more game planning readily available for him, he actually is even better at the big league level. And he's able to approach hitters in a way that he couldn't at AAA because all of that information isn't available to the same degree at that level, just based on resources. So I would be really curious to see what it looks like. I do think there's value in it. On the Weatherholt side of things, oh boy, good luck. I don't know how you make this work if you're Ollie Marmol. If you put J.J. Weatherholt on this roster, he has to start almost every day. It's the only way to make it work, just as it did with Mason Wynn in 2023. But man, go look at those lineups the rest of the year. Look at the guys that were missing out on playing time because Mason Wynn was here. Your lineup, I'll go ahead and give you one real quick.
Oh,
This is, we'll just go with a random one. The final game of the regular season. In the leadoff spot for that season, Tommy Edman was playing in center field. Batting second at DH was Lars Nootbaar. Batting third in right field was Jordan Walker. Batting cleanup was Lucan Baker, playing at first base. Batting fifth on that team was Richie Palacios in left field.
Oh, I remember Palacios.
Batting sixth was Andrew Kisner behind the plate. Seventh was Jose Fermin. Eighth was Irving Lopez.
Never heard of that guy.
Finally, Mason Wynn was batting ninth and playing shortstop. Yeah, there's no downside to playing him. None. You weren't misusing playing time for somebody else based upon the fact that he was in the lineup. If you play Weatherholtz, you are doing so at the expense of Sajaci, or Donnie, or Burleson, or Herrera, or Gorman, or Arenado. there are guys that will be missing out on playing time because of Weatherholtz. Maybe you decide that's worth it, but that is a month that you are opting out of those at-bats for that player in order to get J.J. Weatherholtz the experience. I see the case for it. I think it's a little bit more difficult to make that case for Weatherholtz than it is with Quinn Mathews because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah, and that's why when we did the trade deadline special. Now, we were talking more about like Newpar. We were focused on the left-handed outfield bats because that was what the Padres were looking for at the time. But it's why, like, when they shut down conversations on Brennan Donovan, and that was reported with like almost 5 hours to go in the trade deadline, it's like, man, I wouldn't be shutting down these conversations just right now because now it wasn't a need, right? It wasn't a need to go out there and free up a spot right now because you can keep Weatherholt down in the minor leagues, and maybe it is beneficial just to see what it looks like for the final month and a half. But that decision point was coming at some point, right? It's a lot easier to put teams under pressure at the trade deadline, I would think, than it is in the offseason when, as we've seen how the MLB offseason goes, it takes forever for everybody to decide what they're doing, and there's not the pressure of a deadline coming up. You know, all your trades have to be submitted by 5 o'clock. Okay, let's go. Padres, what do you got? What do you want to throw at us with one of our left-handed bats? I think that was, again, we've talked about it before, already one of their biggest misses, and it's the thing that's going to end up. Again, it wasn't a need, it wasn't necessary, but it is the thing that's probably going to prevent them from calling up J.J. Weatherhold.
And all of this gets back to the offense, which has not been good in the second half of the season, T-Bone. Cardinals offense since the All-Star break, 20th in Major League Baseball on average. They're batting .239. Not terrible, but certainly not what it was at the beginning of the season when they were top 5. On-base percentage is starting to sag. They're down to 22nd in Major League Baseball at a .305 on-base percentage as a team since the All-Star break. Worst part of this, though, is the slug. They are now last in Major League Baseball since the All-Star break with a .353 slugging percentage. They are 28th in OPS plus, which is just a basically, hey, adjusting for era, adjusting for ballpark, how are you offensively? Cardinals are one of the bottom 3 teams in Major League Baseball since the All-Star break. They've been horrid. The offense has 4 shutouts. They've been shut out 4 times in their last 20 games. That is something that they did in the first 80 games of the season 4 times. It's not what you want. They just got shut out for the second time this year by the Colorado Rockies. 3 of the last 4 Rockies shutouts in franchise history, 3 of the last 4 are against you, the Cardinals. Oh boy, offense has gone cold. What do you make of it, T-Bone? What do you make of their recent regression offensively?
Anytime you bring this up, people around the Cardinals, and Ollie said this because he was in studio with us last Friday. You know, we're a young ball club, right? We're young. We're learning how to be big leaguers. Okay, I kind of get that, but then I look and I go, man, Newpar's been here for a while. Alec Burleson's been here a couple years now. This is year 2 as a full-time player, but year 3 in the organization where he's been up here at the big league level. Mason Winn, it's his second full year, and he's actually been pretty good here of late. I don't know. I have a tough time deciding if it is actually they are young or it is, hey, this is just what it looks like when you don't have a bunch of studs in the middle of your lineup and you're just built on a bunch of either below average or slightly above league average hitters. And I think that's the side that I come in at. And the more I watch them, and maybe this is just me in the moment watching this team play, I think they are further away offensively than just saying, hey, if you had acquired Kyle Tucker, for example, this past offseason, the Cardinals are about where the Cubs are. They're a team that's in the playoff hunt. They've got the star in the middle of the lineup. They might be able to go on that little bit of a run. The pitching would have been a big question mark, but at least the offense is fixed. I mean, when you get shut out as much as they have over this stretch, a star's not coming in here. A superstar's not coming in here and just suddenly going to fix everything, and the offense is suddenly going to look great. You need 2 stars, 3 stars that are going to be in that conversation for the offense to be fixed. So I think for me, reality is starting to set in on, okay, I like some of the core pieces. I don't think the core is rotten. I think you've got a couple of pretty good pieces here, but it's not enough. You are still lacking a couple of stars, and by acquiring a couple of stars, it comes back to the question we always get to. I don't know how they do it, and it makes me fear that they are further away than I was expecting.
Here are the best offenses in baseball so far this season. The Dodgers are number 1. The Brewers, I don't understand, but the Brewers are number 2. The Yankees are number 3. The Cubs are number 4, and the Red Sox are number 5. Those are your top 5 offenses in Major League Baseball, just based on runs per game. This isn't me getting super nerdy. Runs per game, those are your top 5 teams. T-Bone, those teams rank 1, 2, 4, 6, and 14. Again, the Brewers, I don't understand. But 1, 2, 4, and 6 in slugging percentage on the season. It's not hard to figure out what's gone wrong, dude. They don't slug. This team doesn't hit for power. The Cardinals are 24th in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage so far this season. If you just look at home runs produced in the 2025 season, the St. Louis Cardinals this year are 25th in Major League Baseball, tied with the Washington Nationals. Only teams below them are Miami, San Fran, the Kansas City Royals, San Diego Padres. They're another outlier. I don't understand it. And the Pittsburgh Pirates. When you don't slug, when you don't hit for power, this is what it looks like. I know people, like, for the last few seasons, we have said that the Cardinals are overly reliant on home runs. There was some truth to that because they also didn't hit for average. What's changed this year is, by and large, the Cardinals are actually hitting for a decent average on the season. They're at a 250 average, which, 15 years ago wouldn't have been great.
For current times, that's not bad.
That's pretty decent given what the 2025 standards are, to the point where it's like borderline top 10 in Major League Baseball in the season. So they hit for average. They get them on, and at times they get them over. The problem for this team is getting them in. That's where things get difficult, and the best way to get a guy in is by slugging. Hit a home run, that is a guaranteed you're getting him in. Hit a double, even if the guy is on first. With this team, they've got a decent amount of athleticism, you're probably getting that guy in. They don't do that enough. And it's not something that you can just say, hey, go do the home run play, right? Like in football, you can just run more deep routes. And that allows for you to give the opportunity to your quarterback of getting more explosive plays. Baseball doesn't have that. There is no way to manufacture slugging percentage unless you are crazy like the Brewers, for example, and you're stealing bases at just this insane rate. That's one way you can do it. The Cardinals don't have the roster to do it,
Not
though.
athletic enough.
So how do they salvage this? Is this a core roster problem, or could you add in one or two pieces and that opens things up to you? How do you view this offense and the way that they can construct it to get away from the issues that have plagued them this season where they have this inconsistency?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is going to come down to they're going to have to find guys that do have more pop in their bat, because you look at their roster right now, I mean, Wilson Contreras has 16 home runs. He's typically going to be about a 20 home run guy. And, like, if we're being honest, he's not a long-term play here. He's going to play out his contract, and then he's not a part of whatever the next core looks like for the Cardinals. Okay, so then let's go to, like, Alec Burleson. He's at 14 home runs, 15 because he homered today as we're recording this. Okay, well, he's probably 15, 20. Like, I'm not expecting much more from him.
I'd say ceiling, like a really good season for Burley, 25.
Yeah.
It's a really good season for Burley.
I would agree with that. And then, like, Newport, if he's here, I think that's probably the same thing for him.
20 ceiling.
Yeah, 20 ceiling, 25. The only guys that potentially have more, I would say Donovan, 15 is probably his ceiling, as we've seen.
15 to 20, yeah.
The only guys that still have maybe a higher ceiling that you can hopefully count on would be like Gorman, Herrera.
Agreed.
But I don't know if those guys are going to be here. Herrera,
maybe
I think,
Walker if everything goes right.
Yeah, Walker for sure.
That's purely dreaming on it. Gorman, at least I've seen it. I know that is in there somewhere if you can unlock it. Herrera, I believe in the power. I think it's there. I think it's going to take some time, but I think he'll unlock it. Walker's purely a dream. Like that is nothing other than projection from me.
But this goes to my point. Like, it's hard to picture where this power is coming from internally, right? I mean, I agree. Walker feels like a dream. Herrera, I would be hopeful that it's there. But, like, right now, I would say, like, okay, let's plan on it not being there so that way we don't, like, get caught,
Sure.
making the wrong decision and it never comes. They've got to find a way to add guys that slug. And they don't have it internally. I don't think J.J. Weatherholt's going to be this slugging machine that when he gets up here, it's going to go, oh, wow, that's the guy that's going to be the savior for us. And if he is, he's probably more of, I would think, the Carpenter route, which is Matt Carpenter, the doubles machine. But as we've seen, Brendan Donovan was a doubles machine early on, and he's really cooled off. So it's just hard to maintain a high slugging percentage if you're relying just on doubles. You've got to find some boppers in the middle of this order. This was my biggest thing going into the year. I can't believe I fooled myself on this with this offense. They were lacking the guy that I could look at and just write in pen, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. It is simple, but it is the thing that you need if you're going to get to October, and not only get to October, but potentially get through October.
So here's my question. How do you get there? Because, like, I'm looking at it right now, and we can finish on this. The Cardinals have 115 home runs on the season, and we'll just make this easy math so that way it's easy to digest for those of you listening at home. The Red Sox are 10th in home runs this season. They have 150 home runs on the season. Again, you're at 115. So that is a difference of 35 home runs that we're talking about here, from going from 25th to to top 10 in Major League Baseball. You can do that with 2 additions. Like if you replace 2 guys in your lineup, you could get 15 plus from each of them compared to the player that is currently at those respective positions. But those are superstars. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you replace, let's call it Brendan Donovan, right? Who I really like. This is not me trying to do this, but let's say Brendan Donovan is replaced by a legit stud player at second base, or you put him elsewhere. Gorman starts, and he's a corner outfielder, whatever it may be. But the production that you got from Brendan Donovan is now replaced by this hypothetical star that has suddenly emerged for the Cardinals. Okay, he has 25 home runs on the season. That's a plus 16 relative to what Brendan Donovan has been. You're looking for another 19 home runs from somewhere else. Okay, Victor Scott. Love him. Think he's a really good player. He has now been replaced in this, again, hypothetical scenario. He has 5 home runs on the season. The guy you bring in has 24 right now. He's on pace for 30 plus, 30 to 35. Again, that's replacing him with a star. You need 2 more stars in this lineup to be able to get to the place that they need to go to. Or, in the aggregate, and this was the Milwaukee plan, all of these dudes have to be good. Because Milwaukee, you look at their lineup, and I can not believe in it all I want to. Dude, Isaac Collins is a stud. He's 40% above league average offensively. Christian Yelich is a really good hitter. I wouldn't put him in the star category at this point in time. We don't have to fight over that right now, T-Bone, but I think he's a really good player. Frelick is 20% above league average. Churio, 17%. Hoskins, 15%. Contreras, 15%. Dude, I could keep going on. They have 9 regulars in their lineup right now that are above league average hitters. And otherwise, every single player is good. And they're all this is something I've heard Anthony Stelter say about the Cardinals. All of those guys are well-rounded. They're good defensively. They are also plus hitters. Most of them bring something to the table in terms of their speed. And so you just have these all-around players where they do everything pretty well, even if none of it is at a quote-unquote elite level, and you just have a team that's been able to produce. That is an incredibly hard way to build. Because if 1 or 2 of them gets hurt, now you're screwed. Because you have to replace that. You're already coming from the aggregate, and now you've replaced that internally with somebody that's below average, and boom, you've got black holes in your lineup. It's over. Now the way you've constructed your roster is done. Meanwhile, the Dodgers can be plagued by injuries all season long, but as long as you've got at least 2 of Ohtani, Will Smith, Muncy, Freeman in the lineup, good luck. Good luck navigating that thing, because those dudes are mashing the baseball all year long. So it's a long way to say it's the same problem that we've been talking about for 7 years. They are lacking that star power in the middle of their order, producing in their prime. And until they get that, this is what we're going to be talking about. It is very hard to consistently produce at a high level without those guys.
And if you don't go out and spend to get it, you're still talking, even if you draft that guy, say with this upcoming draft, whether they're lottery eligible or not, we don't know. But say they draft the star. Say they finally hit on that guy. You're 3 years away from piece number 1 of the superstars coming in. Now, maybe you'd go out and sign or trade for the other one. That's 3 years. If you're not going to spend money on it, you're talking 3 years of development. And even that's 3 years probably to get here, and probably another 2, I would say, at minimum to kind of figure it out. So you're talking 5. We're talking 2030. I'm going to be 30 by then. That's insane.
Be nearly 40.
Oh, my gosh. That makes me feel a little better about being 30. But that's the problem, is you've got to be willing to either go back to the old model, which we talked about last week, of taking some of these nice supplementary pieces you have and be willing to go and find that, whether it's a disgruntled star like they did with Scott Rowland when they acquired him, or a team is like the Diamondbacks that's not going to pay their star. You go out and acquire that guy, and then maybe you hope you develop the second one, but you've got to find these kind of guys. Otherwise, you're right. They're going to continue to trend mediocrity, and this is on the same lines of, this is also with the backdrop of, hey, they have no pitching coming either, by the way. Their pitching is lacking behind by a significant amount as well. And that is all kind of coming to a head and meeting up at this point to where they're getting by in 2025. It's going to be hard for them probably in 26 and 27, and it's how they've gotten to the spot of the rebuild.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation to monitor. Have you looked at the Cardinals game?
Well, I saw, as we were recording this, that somebody gave up a 2-run homer. I don't know who it was, and it was 6-5 Colorado.
Jojo Romero came in for the ninth inning, save opportunity, up 5-4. And after we were praising the bullpen for what they have done, Leahy gave up a bomb. Riley O'Brien got out of it, but gave up 2 hits. And Jojo Romero gave up 2 hits, including a homer, ends up giving up the lead. Cardinals losing now 6-5 as we're recording this. There's 2 outs in the game, so I don't know how this ends, but hey, man, congratulations. Enjoy talking about this tomorrow. Cardinals remain 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Losing 4 out of 6 against Colorado is not a great way to go about your business.
And I was going to say, let's go back even to last year, too. Mm-hmm. The worst team in baseball history, the White Sox, they dropped 2 of 3 at home against. Depending on how this ends, they will drop potentially 2 of 3 at home against another.
It is officially over.
Okay, so they have dropped 2 of 3 at home again to the worst team in baseball and 4 of 6 in the season. If that doesn't tell you about where the Cardinals are at as an organization, I don't know what will.
They are officially back to 500. He's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in. If you have not done so already, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Always watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. And finally, if you guys would like, you can find us at 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. It's all available for you. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you guys again next week on the Redbird Report.
Find every episode of the Redbird Report with Brandon Kiley and Tanner Hendrickson on YouTube or at 101ESPN.com.